If there is this belief values regarding being enlightened or not, just make a conclusion to purify right away. That which has nothing to do with being enlightened or not. Because you are meeting just the fake enlightenment in the thought. This is only about opinions. The true enlightenment doesn't exist. Therefore, there is just the hallucination of opinions and meanings. Being empty or not, this is opinions. It becomes a belief, and then people taking the side, giving value to it, purify it right away. That it has nothing to do with being empty or not. If you are deluded to this is it, just use the sentence. It is not about this is it or this isn't it. If it's about involvements, purify it. This is not about involvement or non-involvement. If it is about liberation, then it has nothing to do with being liberated or not. Let's purify it. The conclusion within the blessing will be balanced with everything simultaneously, especially within all the opinions that is taking sides, being specific. It will purify all these angles. It will reflect naturally. When we conclude with everything, it will proceed in such a way that it discards itself. Every sentence discarding itself. It is the sentence that doesn't grasp for itself. That's why it has the quality of purification. It facilitates purification. If circling within this is it or this isn't it, that which has nothing to do with this is it or this isn't it, purifying this right away. This is the way to purify. Purifying terminologies themselves. Think of these terminologies. Everyone has an attachment and fixates to one's own assumed up terminologies. Sometimes it can emerge, and each one of us have different timing from the arising of those thoughts and meanings. The same meanings that are fixated but emerging in different time. So whatever that is arising, just purify it. Any belief values that is arising, just purify it. It's the same thing, but it's emerging in different time. Sometimes it is the delusion in this is it or this isn't it, all the same, involvement or non-involvement. Purify it right away. That it has nothing to do with this is it or this isn't it, involvement or non-involvement. All the delusion in this kind of this is it or this isn't it, it's a kind of belief values, which is samsara. And whoever that has any arising in anything, purify it right away. If it is about yes or no, purifying it. That which has nothing to do with yes or no. That which has nothing to do with letting go or not letting go. Any side that one is taking delusively, purifying it right away. Any belief values, any meanings that are arising, purifying them right away. Using terminologies, purifying terminologies. We have to learn about the arts of the blessing by making a conclusion to help end for samsara constantly. That is the blessing. You have to learn to refine it. yourself. The reminders having the conclusion and end within itself. Like this child. Samsara is like this constantly too. And something like ordinariness like this. Don't let it be taking sides. Conclude it as a purification that which has nothing to do with being ordinary or not. Any state that is arising, purify it. For example, letting go. Use the term letting go or not. There's nothing to do with letting go or not letting go. This is not like in the book. What you have learned is so stupid. When you meet the intrinsic, you cannot move on. You are confused. Like you go in the forest, you need to ask the forest guide, those who are expertise in the forest. Don't think for others, because however it is not aligned. The mind is in the status of assuming up. Knower is the same. Without assuming up, it's just in the state of nature. Assume up the knower, the consciousness. It is assumed up. At first, it is assumed up and it's bygone. But later on, longer and longer, it is grasping itself. The assumed up of knower is grasped for itself. Therefore, there is a delusive attachment in the knower. The assumed up grasp for itself. When it's emphasized, it turns into holding on, fixated to itself, repeating, emphasizing, turning into holding on. At first, it's assumed up and it's bygone. Used it and it's bygone. Later on, longer and longer time, there is an emphasis on using it. It becomes an attachment and fixation. It's not bygone. Therefore, it turns into the karmic difficulties of the knower, always being deluded to knowing on and on and on and on. And then it fabricates, from the knower, it fabricates opinions and meanings further. And always fabricating further. First, it's bygone. When it's familiar to use it, there is the delusive attachment overlaying the fabrication more and more in opinions and meanings. The origin is assumed up the knower, but then it is emphasized. In the cycle of arising and ceasing, it begins with the knower. When it is assumed up, and it is circling because it is fixated to the knower. Therefore, it has the assumed up that is fabricated itself longer and longer. And especially when we are mentioning about the knower, it's already emphasized on the knower itself. It is added in itself already. We have to proceed with that which has nothing to do with engaging or disengaging. This is unwinding, that is discarding itself, cutting within the cutting itself. No emphasis. That which has nothing to do with engaging or disengaging. There is no emphasis on any kanta, the 5 kanta of the body-mind. No emphasis on that. This is the essence of the enlightenment, cutting deluded knowing. That which has nothing to do with engaging or disengaging will not emphasize on any kanta, ending. Therefore, it will not become samsara, ending. Ending instantly, every time there is a conclusion like this. Constantly ending, because there's a lot. Just like the big tree, being there for like hundreds of thousands of years, cutting once is not going to come down. You have to constantly cutting. The conclusion once is like you cut a big tree. It's going to go in once, but not the whole tree, because it's a big tree. Because there are a lot of karmic habits. Only one big tree, but it's a big tree. Karmic habit has been emphasized for so long. Therefore, it's a lot in there. The conclusion has to be made constantly. Therefore, it's totally cutting right through each time. Cutting and helping through cutting as helping. Then it is all at once. And you have to think of it each time in your mind. Everything in the conclusion, then it will be one essence. Otherwise, it's going to be just cutting, the action of cutting the knowing. We have to think further for everything, proceed with everything. Then it will be one with everything. Enlightenment and helping through enlightenment is one. Longpo has to help those who are stuck, cannot leave it like that. The beings, the non-humans who are there, they are awaiting for Longpo to give a confirmation about the blessing. And there, where he is right now, in Vietnam, there are many enlightened ones. They also follow blessing like Longpo. They use the same reminders. Somehow something is still hesitating. Therefore, Longpo has to be there, help them with the conclusion. So their blessing is not complete. That's why Longpo has to be there and continue with them further. Longpo is saying that many countries that Longpo has been, many of the non-humans who live anywhere in the nature, they follow the blessing now. The area that is now they are full of the Arahants since the past. And now the Arahants, the fully enlightened ones, they are open up towards blessing as well. So the non-humans are like the humans. First, they make a conclusion just for oneself, right? Paul said, that's right. The habits of practicing for attainment, always linking with the conclusion. That's why it's concluding for oneself. That is the habits of practicing for attainment. That is by the belief values. Trying to end, trying to put down, trying to let go, trying to refrain, trying to discard. That's a habit and the belief values. So when they make a conclusion according to Luang Por, they are not yet open up widely because the conclusion is still grasped because it's a firm fixation. Because it is the grasping mind. But when the conclusion starting to open up, to give, is not to grasp, sometimes that habit can come in. But concluding with everything simultaneously, not just about something within involvement or non-involvement. Everything has nothing to do with involvement or non-involvement. Let's not be limited, because otherwise the habits will grasp for the act of involvement or non-involvement. It has to be about giving. Then there is no overlaying of grasping mind. Conclusion is from the great compassion only. That which has nothing to do with engaging or disengaging. It has to be meant for everything. That which has nothing to do with this is it or this isn't it. It has to be for everything. It will end all the grasping for the extinction or the alignment. The grasping is itself the samudaya, the cause of suffering, causing of karma, causing of suffering. When you give everything, this is the great compassion. It is the conclusion that is made for everything. So continue like this. Everything, everything.